Hello, and thanks for joining me on this episode of Simply Saturday, where I get to show you a card that is fast and easy to make. My name is Julie, and this is stampwithjuliebomb.com. I welcome you to our episode today. I'm going to show you a card that was inspired actually by something I saw on our Stampin' Up website. And I took a brief glance and it kind of stuck in my mind, and today we're going to create that type of card. I will be using the Penned Petals stamp set and also words from Biggest Wish. Now, at the end of today's video, be sure and open up the description down below, and you'll find not only this month's host code, but a lot of other information, including all the products that we used today, and also some links to where you can find some of the extra products that I use. So I am starting out with a thick basic white piece. This is 5.5 by 8.5, and I have scored it at 4 1/4 so that I can fold it down the center and get a nice crease. I'm going to use my bone folder to just burnish that crease, which just sets it in place, makes sure that my fold opens nicely. This card is going to be in a landscape position, so it's going to look like this. All right, now I have a scrap piece of paper. This is just a piece of copy paper, just a scrap. But what I'm going to do is lay out some of my colored cardstock onto this piece. Now, what you need for this card, if you're going to copy it, are 4 complementary pieces of cardstock. Now, what made this super easy is I just went to our in colors. These are the ones that have 1 year left. They'll retire at the end of next year's catalog, so in the spring of 2023. But I chose these because I know they look good together. The 5th color of this collection is Evening Evergreen, which is a darker green. So I went with the 4 lighter colors. This one is Pale Papaya. This one is Soft Succulent. This one is Fresh Freesia. And this one is Polished Pink. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly stick them down to this scratch paper. And I say lightly because we're going to be removing them from the scratch paper before we attach them to our card. So in order to do that, if you have any snail left, maybe you were really stocked up and you still have some of this left, even though it's been retired for a couple years, that will work nicely. You can also grab your Stampin' Seal if that is what you have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a dab of adhesive on the back of my paper, and I'm even going to blot at it a little bit with my fingers. I've also seen people take it and put it on their clothing, their sleeve or their jeans, just because you want to make this a little less sticky. So I've got that one done, and I'm just going to place it here nice and straight. Again, I'm not too concerned about placement on the white paper because it's going to come off of that, but I do want the placement in relation to the other strips to be nice and straight. So let's go ahead and add the Soft Succulent. Same thing, just a dab of adhesive to help it hold in place. I don't want it to slip around when I do my stamping. All right, so I'm going to put that one right up against it. Okay, next let's do the Fresh Freesia. And likewise, I'm going to lay it down right up against my Soft Succulent strip. Now let me tell you the measurements of these. There are 4 of them, as I mentioned, and they measure 3/4 of an inch by 5.5. They're all the same as each other. And here's our 4th and final one. All right, so that adhesive is not meant to have it stick forever. It's just meant to kind of hold it in place. Okay, now what you want to do is take a little bit of a larger size stamp. So I'm going to use the flowers from Penned Petals. And what will kind of give you a good indication is it should be a little bit too large for your D block, okay? That would probably be okay if it fit on here, but you want a stamp that is quite large. So in this case, I'm going to go up to my E block like so. All right, now I'm gonna just use my Memento black ink and ink this stamp up. And I am pressing it into the ink and kind of walking it around different areas of the ink pad in case I have drier spots or spots that are a little bit more wet. And then as I'm looking at it, because this is such a large stamp, I am also going to pull in my Stampin' Pierce mat to lay underneath my paper that I'm stamping on. This is going to help me get a cleaner image. And there we go. Okay. I am going to turn my ink pad upside down and take it to the stamp because I can still see some areas here that need a little bit more ink. This part is a little troublesome. That got very inky. Just going to use my Simply Chamois and kind of clean that area up. Isn't that an easy way to do it? And now make sure that I'm inked in that area. Oh yeah, that looks much better. All right, so I have my black ink on my stamp, and now I'm going to stamp right on top of these strips. Okay, I'm looking through here. I don't know if you can tell, but I feel like the middle of my stamp is a little bit light. Now, if I was using my SaleABration, I wouldn't even have to worry about that because if it didn't stamp as dark as I want it, I could repeat stamp it. But I did not pull out my SaleABration, so I'm just adding a little bit of ink to the center of my stamp. I think we're gonna be good with this now. All right, so this is gonna go over here kind of to the left side. It looks like it's going to hang off the top and the bottom just a smidge, and that's totally fine. And I am giving it a moment for that ink to settle into my cardstock. And then we can take the next steps. Okay, there we have it. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these off and move the placement over here to my cardstock base. So we know our order, and it's pretty easy to tell, but I'm going to pull these off. Just keep them in the same order that they started out in. And now I'm going to replace them by positioning them onto the cardstock. And at this point, I'm going to spread out the spacing a little bit so that there's some white space between each strip. Okay, and I'm just getting an eyeball version at this stage to know how much white space I want in between. Like that to me is going to be too much. You want your image to still look like it flows, but with a little bit of white space between. Okay, so this is coming together. I like it. All right, at this point, you can decide how you want your placement. In my current situation right here, I've got a large white border here and a small border here. If you're comfortable with that, that's great. You can go with it. Or you could shift everything to center it up if you prefer. But I'm kind of liking how this looks. So what I'm gonna do now that I know about my spacing is I'm gonna start attaching. All right, and then we're going to just kind of go from there and we're gonna get what we get. So I'm gonna start at the bottom with my polished pink. Now my strips do go from left to right, end to end, all the way across the white card base. You could certainly also have these strips shorter if you preferred. I like how it's filling up the space. Okay, now I'm gonna put my fresh Freesia piece on. You see how it's a little tacky, but it wasn't stuck down to the paper from our previous sticky step. All right, here is the fresh Freesia. And I'm going to leave about, if I had to guess, I think that's about 1/8 of an inch between colors. It might be another 1/16, I'm not sure. It's definitely not a 1/4 inch in between. I think 1/4 inch is too much. Okay, on to soft succulent. Now you see, by keeping them in the same order that they were stamped, your eye still sees the image as one, but we have those cool white spaces in between. And you could do this with any colors that you have, any colors, any stamps. That's what makes it so fast and easy, is just use what you have on hand. All right, here is our 4th and final strip. What do you think? How did I do in my eyeballing these spaces? Not too bad, right? If you are more finicky and you don't want to complete your card as quickly, you could certainly measure those spaces in between, but I'm super happy with that. Now I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. On this side where my edges are a little bit uneven, I'm just going to put that into my paper trimmer and trim it. I'm going to do that real quick. I'm actually just taking a smidge off. It's not even a measurable amount. But just by trimming that up, you can see that it's nice and even on this side. I want to apologize in case the sound was not as good today as it typically is. I'm just realizing that my microphone was not plugged. So it is now plugged in. I imagine that the audio just got a little bit better. So I do apologize for that. When I got up to use the paper cutter, I realized that it wasn't plugged in. Okay. Now we need a greeting. So I have a scrap of fresh Freesia. I'm going to use thanks. I think I'll use the scripty one, this one. And my black ink. And I'm just going to stamp it onto my fresh Freesia scrap of cardstock. After I stamp it, I am going to punch it out. So I'm doing it a little bit lower on my scrap so that it'll fit into my punch and be able to reach. All right, so there we have that. And I'm using the postage stamp punch. It's this cute rectangle with the little deckled edges around it. So I'm going to pop this into my punch. Line it up. I'm going to take a look at it this way. Oh, it just slid. I could have used with a little bit more to hang on to, couldn't I? All right, let's see here. All right, that is going to work. Let's get that out of there. And this I'm going to place up here a little bit away from that fresh Freesia piece. I'm just going to attach it with dimensionals. I think because this is a simple card, it needs a little something. So you could do corners or you could do one in the middle. I really think that 2 are enough on here. So I've just got 2 on there and I'm going to pop it up here. I might even want it up a little higher. What do you think? In the comments, you can let me know if I should have gone on the stripes. I'm going to put it a little bit higher. Nope. I'm going to bring it down here. My eye just caught that. I like it in the center, but you can see that depending on what you use and what punch you chose, you've got options. So I'm going to go ahead and center it, place my words here. And then I'm just going to finish it with a couple of rhinestones. Let me grab those. All right, let's see here. I have so many different ones. I had to reach for the ones, just the plain, the basic rhinestone jewels. Okay, so let's pop a couple of these on here just to give it some sparkle. All right, I'm gonna put, okay, I'm gonna eyeball them because I'm gonna use either 3 or 5, you know, our rule of odd numbers. I do want one on the white, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go up here, and over here, actually on my thanks, and the third one down here, kind of in the center, down here on my polished pink, like so. And look, it makes such a lovely little thank you note. Super cute. Again, you can change your colors, change your greeting, and you have, again, a fast and easy card that you can make. Please leave your comments below. I would love to hear from you. I would love to know what colors you chose to use when you recreate this card. And if you haven't already, I do ask you to subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it so much. And when you subscribe, if you hit the bell, that is the notification bell, and that way you'll be notified each and every time that I put a new video here up on my YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. See you next time.